Okay, take 3. We're talking about the Fairly Oddparents, Fairly Odder, which I thought was a movie, and I did multiple takes talking about it like it was a movie. Doesn't change a bunch, but I want to get it right. This is a new series. This is a whole new Fairly Oddparents series, streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus starting March 31st. Okay, real quick background. I grew up with Fairly Oddparents. It was never really my favorite show. It kind of got annoying after a while. The voice acting, the sense of humor, the sound effects, the music. I like it fine, and I still like it fine. Jimmy Timmy Power Hour was a defining moment of my childhood. There were some great things there, sharp sense of humor, but ultimately not my favorite Nickelodeon show. Now, we're getting a new hybrid live-action 2D animation series, not a movie, Fairly Odder, which seems to be very clearly aping off just basically these many other Nickelodeon live-action kids comedy shows, which has been Nickelodeon's bread and butter for quite a while. This has been their thing. Cartoon Network is stuck with animation. Nickelodeon has just tons of live-action stuff. I think Warped is maybe one of the shows that they're currently doing in that format. I think they tend to be very ugly. They're obviously done relatively cheaply. You have your cheap lighting setups. It's almost definitely multicam, so they're shooting multiple angles simultaneously so they don't have to redo stuff quite as many times. And here, even those small bits of 2D animation we get with Cosmo and Wanda and other fairies and such, it doesn't look especially good. It doesn't look all that close to the original show. I don't get a similar sense of movement from them. And in fact, even this other awful TV movie of Fairly Oddparents from 2011 called A Fairly Odd Movie, Grow Up Timmy Turner, which I was completely unaware of until this morning. They use CG for the godparents in that one, for the fairies. I think they actually kind of look better, just in terms of their movement. I like the animation on the fairies. Looks kind of neat. Maybe they figured CG would be a better fit for, a live action setting. And in fact, the lighting in this in Fairly Odd Movie actually looks pretty decent. Like, you actually get a sense of depth. It looks like a movie. It looks like there was a certain amount of budget. And then over here with Fairly Odder, I mean, obviously it's a show. It'll have a cheaper budget per episode compared to a movie, which is one and done. But even so, I still think it looks really bad. We also get a sense of the budget throughout. One of my favorite quote-unquote special effects in this one is when our main character, whose name I already forget, wishes to be taller. So they just smush her up against the top of the set, and that's the effect. We don't want to green screen her in as larger. We don't want to do forced perspective. Let's just have her stand on a ladder up next to the ceiling, and we're moving on. We're done. We're done. Whatever. It's not the biggest budget thing. It's not my cup of tea. But most importantly, people like me, people of a similar age, people who have similar feelings about the original show, we really need to understand that this is not for us at all. And I'm feeling a big internet dogpile coming on this one. We're already seeing some pretty negative reactions. My reaction to it is definitely negative as well, but I can foresee all the terrible thrashing reviews that'll come out on day 1 or 2 of this release. And I mean, whatever, do what you want. I won't be a part of that, but I would like to ask some people to curb their expectations and curb their anger for this series because of that core fact. This is really not for you. Yes, it's technically a reboot of the property, but you, someone who likes the original series or just animation in general, this is really not for you. This is for small children, okay? So I think that should temper our discussions about the series. I see no attempt to bring in the old heads, the people who really like the original show. Nothing about this is supposed to play on your nostalgia bone. Nothing about this is meant to bring you in and try to get you to subscribe to the service. This perspective of mine seems to be bolstered by what Paramount, what Viacom has been doing with that small handful of really recognizable animated properties, specifically on Paramount Plus. So, okay, we have SpongeBob, Camp Coral, very much for smaller, younger kids, just in the character designs, sense of humor, writing, etc. It's not meant to be a full SpongeBob reboot for the original fan base. Nope, not at all. The Rugrats reboot, I guess you could potentially make an argument there that it's maybe trying to bring in some of the original fans. I don't think that the writing or the structuring supports that in any way. It really does just feel like a pretty cheap, low-budget kids CG show. And now we have this very much for kids. So, okay, there's a tip-off. Apparently, Paramount Plus really want to attract more kids, more families to the service. Maybe they even want to kind of directly compete with Disney Plus, even though, my word, in terms of money spent, I think it might be a losing battle. Clearly, Paramount / Viacom media overlords do not see these old core Nickelodeon properties with a decent amount of brand recognition as potential tools to get young adults or like 20, 30 somethings into the service at all. That has been made abundantly clear. They only see these properties as appealing to children, and they are heading hard in that direction. So when we talk about this, just please keep in mind that there was never an attempt here. There was never a strong desire, apparently, to try to appeal to people who are really familiar with the show already. It's for the next generation, so to speak. It's for the younger kids. And yes, we should still hold entertainment for young kids to relatively high standards. We still need to deliver quality entertainment for kids. It's really important, especially during early developmental stages. This is nothing. And in fact, maybe this whole situation even speaks to the idea that maybe Paramount just doesn't see the very clear opportunity to actually bring older folks, meaning 20s and 30s people, into the service or back to these properties. And that is a real opportunity. And maybe it's even coming from an incredibly outdated concept of like, oh, animation is for kids. Oh, these were old cartoons. They were for kids at the time. Surely adults don't like this stuff anymore, right? But if that's the case, boy, oh boy, are the decision makers completely out of touch, as we know here on this channel and on every other channel where adults are talking very seriously about animation. No, it really can be for everybody, especially for people around my age, because we have just a different perspective on it. We've seen how animation can evolve. We've seen how the same property can evolve to be something for adults. We've seen how a property can just be exclusively for adults from the get-go. And we've also seen the rise of adult-friendly animation, mostly through Pixar, which is just stuff that works equally well for children and adults. And I've seen nothing from Paramount that tells me that they understand that. They really are just going after these younger demographics. Whatever, they can spend their money however they want, but boy, oh boy, whether or not it's going to work feels like a pretty big toss-up to me. I would be very interested. I have no idea how I would be able to get this information, but it would be really fascinating to find out whether the show is actually successful. Like how many new subscribers does it bring in? How many younger viewers are actually watching the darn thing? Whether it generates substantial merchandise revenue and a whole new fan base. That's what they want it to do. I don't feel like it's situated to actually do that. And in fact, the fairies, the godparents themselves, feel like afterthoughts. So much of the focus is just on like this terrible child comedy acting, which no disrespect to the actors. They're just, they're just making some money, but my goodness, like absolute trash. Okay, I gotta stop. Like I said, I probably won't watch the show. It's probably not gonna happen. And again, it's not for me. It's probably not for the majority of my audience, even the younger viewers that tend to come around to the channel. I feel like they tend to have better taste than this. I feel like they actually tend to be more discerning in their animation and animation adjacent entertainment that they actually dedicate their time to. So, okay, we're done. That is probably the last I'll ever say about Fairly Odder, unless it comes up on a stream or something, in which case, go to town. We can talk about it some more. That's all for now. Thanks for stopping by.